All right, so we're back for another deep dive, and today we're tackling something that's, I don't know about you, but it's always felt kind of like a moving target to me.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
How do we make sure the medicines we take, the stuff that really matters,
Right,
are actually good? How do we guarantee that quality?
for sure.
It's all about good manufacturing practices or GMPs,
Okay.
right? And that's what we're diving into today. But we're not just looking at where things stand right now. I mean, that's important, but we're really trying to get a glimpse into the future.
Absolutely.
Where are GMPs headed? And I think it's especially tricky because this is such a heavily regulated field.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you innovate and move forward when you've got all these rules? That's what we're going to try and unravel.
Yeah. And it's an exciting time to be doing that because there are some pretty big shifts happening.
Huge, right?
I mean, think about it. We've got more and more automation coming into the picture.
Robots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Robots, sophisticated systems, you name it. And then there's this whole move towards continuous manufacturing.
Which I'm still wrapping my head around.
Yeah, it's a big departure from the traditional way of doing things. And on top of all that, you've got these incredible advancements in therapies, especially
Yeah.
cell therapies.
Cutting edge stuff.
Absolutely. So all of these things, they're not just minor tweaks. They're really shaking up how we think about GMPs.
Yeah, they're forcing us to rethink the whole thing.
Exactly. And that's what we want to unpack today.
Yeah.
How are these innovations changing GMP requirements? How are the regulators adapting?
What do companies need to know to stay compliant?
How does it impact quality systems,
Mm.
risk management, all of that?
So I guess the best place to start is with these emerging trends themselves, right?
For sure.
Like, let's take automation first. I can see how, on the surface, it sounds great. More efficiency, maybe fewer errors. But when you think about it from a GMP perspective, it kind of makes you nervous too.
Yeah.
Like, how do you make sure these automated systems are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing all the time, every time?
Right, right. You can't just set it and forget it. It's not like a Roomba.
Exactly. And I think about, in some of the regulations we've looked at, like for dietary supplements, they already talk about the need to calibrate and check all that equipment regularly. Like in 21 CFR Part 111.35B12.
Right.
So if that's important for supplements, imagine how much more crucial it is for, actual drug manufacturing, especially as these systems get even more complex.
Absolutely. You've got to make sure that equipment is doing what it's supposed to be doing consistently. It's like your car's navigation system, right?
Oh, yeah.
You've got to make sure it's accurate, up to date, because you're relying on it to get you where you need to go.
To guide you, yeah.
Exactly. And then it's not just the physical equipment itself, it's all the data these systems generate.
Oh, right. Tons of it.
Mountains of data, potentially.
Yeah.
And that's all electronic records, which brings in a whole other set of regulations like 21 CFR Part 11, dealing specifically with electronic records and signatures.
So it's like the whole digital world is colliding with GMPs.
Exactly. How do you guarantee the integrity of that digital information? How do you make sure there's a clear audit trail?
Yeah.
Who did what and when? These are core GMP principles that get really interesting when you bring in automation.
So it's like GMPs have to adapt to the digital age?
Yeah, they have to evolve.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about automation. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about continuous manufacturing. This one, I'll be honest, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
It's a big one.
It's a huge shift from how we've traditionally made drugs, which is in batches.
Right. Make a batch, test it, release it.
Exactly. You have these distinct units.
And the EAS Consulting Group, their transcript and regulations like 21 CFR Part 211.192, they all talk about batch records.
Yeah.
So, the detailed history of each batch.
Right. But with continuous manufacturing, the process just keeps going.
It never stops.
Like a river, a constant flow.
Right.
Raw materials go in one end, finished product comes out the other.
So where does the idea of a batch even fit into that?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
If it's a continuous flow, how do you do quality checks? If there's no clear start and end point, how do you ensure the quality of the product?
Yeah, the traditional checkpoints just don't seem to apply.
Exactly. And this is where the FDA's pharmaceutical cGMPs for the 21st Century Initiative is really pushing things forward. They're saying, look, we need to move towards continuous real-time quality assurance. Instead of just testing at the end of a batch, you need to be monitoring the critical quality parameters throughout the entire process.
So it's like having sensors all along the way.
Exactly. It's like, imagine you're cooking.
Okay.
Instead of just tasting the dish at the end, you have sensors in your kitchen monitoring the temperature, the mixing speed, everything in real time.
Making sure it's all going according to plan.
Exactly. Because the process never stops, the quality checks can't stop either.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered automation, we've talked about continuous manufacturing, and now let's jump into the deep end with advanced therapies, especially cell therapies.
All right, diving in.
This is where things get really complex, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole different world. When you look at something like Adrian P. Gee's book on cell therapy cGMP facilities and manufacturing, it really highlights the unique challenges here.
What's so different about it?
Well, you're dealing with living materials, the cells themselves.
Right, it's not just chemicals.
Exactly. And that introduces a whole new level of complexity and variability.
More sensitive, right?
Much more sensitive. They need very specific conditions to thrive, and the manufacturing processes are often highly personalized, tailored to the individual patient.
So it's like personalized medicine taken to a whole new level.
Absolutely. And you can't just treat these cells like any other raw material. They need special handling, specialized facilities.
I was just thinking about that. The facilities must be pretty intense.
Oh, they are. There are books like Quality Systems and Controls for Pharmaceuticals that talk about the need for these highly specialized production facilities.
Right.
With enhanced containment, very specific environmental controls, rigorous safety measures, because the risks of contamination are so much higher with these biological materials.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about sterile products or, those that are administered in certain ways like aerosols or powders.
Exactly. So guidelines like the CBER Compliance Program Guidance Manual for Biological Drug Products, those become really important here.
Because they lay out the specific requirements.
Right. They provide the roadmap for how to handle these unique products safely and effectively.
It feels like the regulations are almost playing catch-up, though, trying to keep pace with these incredible advancements.
Yeah, there's definitely that sense of trying to stay ahead of the curve. But I think the FDA's pharmaceutical cGMPs for the 21st Century Initiative is a good sign.
How so?
Well, it shows they're recognizing that the old way of doing things, the one-size-fits-all approach, might not be the best way to regulate these new technologies.
They're being more flexible.
Yeah, more adaptable. They're moving towards more risk-based approaches. It's recognizing that different products and processes have different levels of risk.
And that makes sense.
The goal is to encourage innovation while still ensuring patient safety. It's a delicate balance.
So it's not about stifling progress. It's about finding a way to guide it safely.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of quality by design, or QBD, comes in.
Right. I've seen that mentioned in ICH Q8R1 and Certified Pharmaceutical GMP Professional Handbook.
Yeah, it's a big part of the future of GMPs. It's about shifting from just testing the end product to building quality into the process from the very beginning.
Proactive rather than reactive.
Exactly. You're using science and risk management to design a process that consistently delivers a high-quality product.
So you understand the critical quality attributes of your product.
Right.
And you design your process to make sure those are always met.
It's like building a house.
Okay.
You wouldn't just build it and then inspect it at the end. You'd make sure the foundation is solid, the materials are strong, all of that.
You're building quality in from the ground up.
Precisely. And then you've got process analytical technology, or PACT, which is like the eyes and ears of QBD.
Oh, right. I've heard of PIA.
It's a set of tools that allow you to monitor critical process parameters in real time.
So you can see what's happening as it's happening.
Exactly. And that lets you make adjustments on the fly, if needed, to keep everything within the specified parameters.
Preventing problems before they even arise.
Exactly. It's all about reducing the risks associated with manufacturing uncertainty.
So we've talked a lot about how technology is changing the actual manufacturing process. But what about the quality system?
Ah, yes. The backbone of GMP.
Right. All those traditional things, document control, standard operating procedures.
It's all being impacted, no doubt about it. I mean, just think about the sheer amount of data we were talking about earlier. With automation and continuous manufacturing.
It's overwhelming.
It can be. You need a way to manage all that information effectively. And that's where electronic quality management systems, or EQMS, come in.
Right. So the good documentation practices for electronic systems video transcript really highlighted those.
Exactly. EQMS is becoming essential. It's about managing the entire life cycle of electronic records, ensuring secure audit trails, maintaining the integrity of all that data.
It's like a high-tech filing cabinet.
Exactly. But one that's completely transparent and auditable.
So everything is traceable?
Precisely. But, even with all these fancy electronic systems, good old written procedures, the SOPs, they're still crucial.
Oh, yeah. Those are the bedrock.
They really are. Devon Edwards, in his GMP training and regulations like 21 CFR Part 111.303, They all stress the importance of SOPs.
Standard operating procedures?
Yep, they're like the detailed instructions for everything you do in a GMP environment, from how to operate a piece of equipment to how to collect a sample in the lab.
You can't deviate from them, right?
Well, you can, but 21 CFR Part 211.10b is very clear. Any deviation has to be documented and justified. It's like having a recipe.
You got to stick to it.
Unless you have a really good reason to change something. And you better write that reason down.
Speaking of labs, they're still a big part of all this, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're the heart of quality control. 21 CFR, Part 111, Subpart J, and the EAS Consulting Group video on GMP Laboratory Overview, they spell out all the requirements for lab operations.
Like what?
Well, you need written procedures for all the tests you do.
Makes sense.
Controlled lab facilities.
Right.
Robust analytical processes, scientifically sound test methods.
So the methods themselves have to be reliable.
Exactly. And that's where things like accuracy, precision, specificity, ruggedness, all those come in.
I remember the EAS Consulting Group transcript talking about those.
Yeah, they're essential characteristics of a good test method. They basically ensure that the data you're relying on is trustworthy.
So accuracy means your results are close to the true value.
Right. Precision means you get consistent results if you run the same test multiple times.
And specificity means the test only measures what it's supposed to.
Exactly. And ruggedness means the test can handle small variations in conditions and still give you reliable results.
So all of that ensures you're getting good data.
And then you have all that sophisticated equipment in the lab.
And you have to make sure it's all working properly.
Oh yeah, that's where qualification comes in, the DQ, IQ, OQ, PQ we talked about earlier.
Right. Those acronyms.
Miltenyi Biotech GMP 101 and the EAS Consulting Group, there's good resources on this. Basically, you need to make sure the equipment is suitable for its intended purpose and functions correctly.
And that involves, like, checking the design, installation, operation, performance.
Right, all of that. And then, of course, regular calibration is essential too.
So with all these moving parts, it seems like risk management is becoming even more crucial in the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, absolutely. It's moving front and center. The more complex these processes get, the more important it becomes to have a really solid approach to managing risks.
And we have a framework for that, right?
We do. ICH-Q9, the Guideline on Quality Risk Management, and the FDA has adopted it, as mentioned in quality risk management in the FDA-regulated industry. It's all about proactively identifying, assessing, and controlling potential risks to both product quality and patient safety.
So it's not just about reacting to problems after they happen.
Nope, it's about anticipating what could go wrong and putting measures in place to prevent it, or at least minimize the impact.
And it seems like these risk management principles are being applied across the entire life cycle of a drug now.
Exactly, from early development to manufacturing, distribution, even inspections. It's a holistic approach to ensuring quality and safety.
And one of the things I've been hearing a lot about is contamination control strategies.
Oh yeah, that's a big one, especially with the revised EU GMP Annex 1, which they talk about in the Risk Revolution video. Contamination control is no longer just a nice-to-have, it's a formal, documented requirement.
So you need a comprehensive plan.
Exactly. It's not just scattered procedures anymore. It's a cohesive strategy outlining how you're going to prevent contamination at every stage.
Especially for those high-risk products.
Absolutely. The ones where contamination could have serious consequences.
And it seems like tools from other industries are finding their way into pharma, like hazard analysis and critical control points, or HACCP.
Yeah, HACCP is a great example. It's a systematic way to identify and control hazards, and quality risk management in the FDA-regulated industry really dives into how it can be applied to pharmaceuticals.
So it's not just about contamination, it's about any hazard that could impact quality or safety.
Exactly. And then there's KPA corrective and preventive action, which is all about learning from your mistakes and preventing them from happening again.
It's the engine of continuous improvement.
It really is. The Rodriguez-Perez book on KPS is a great resource for understanding how to build a strong KPS system.
So with all these changes happening, what can companies do to keep up? How can they adapt to all these technological advancements and evolving regulations while still staying compliant with GMPs?
It's a challenge, for sure. But I think continuous learning is key. Devon Edwards talks a lot about this in his training.
Training for everyone involved.
Exactly. Everyone needs to be up to speed on the latest technologies and the latest GMP requirements. It's about creating a culture of ongoing learning.
And documentation, of course, is more important than ever.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about paper anymore. We're moving towards more and more electronic documentation.
Right.
But the principles of good documentation practices, or GDOCP, those still apply.
So the LCOA principles, right?
Exactly. Attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. Those are still the gold standard. Whether it's on paper or in a computer system, those principles have to be upheld.
And strong process controls are crucial too, from start to finish.
Absolutely. 21 CFR Part 211, Subpart F, and 21 CFR 211.101, they lay out the requirements for process controls. It's all about making sure things are done right, consistently, to prevent errors and ensure quality.
And when things do go wrong, thorough investigations are essential.
Absolutely. 21 CFR Part 211.192 and Bleasner's book, Establishing a cGMP Laboratory Audit System, they provide a lot of guidance on investigations.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what happened, why it happened, and whether it could happen again.
Or whether it affected other batches or products.
Right. It's about getting to the root cause and taking steps to prevent recurrence.
It also seems like keeping up with the regulatory landscape itself is becoming a full-time job.
It really is. Regulatory intelligence is so important now. Companies need to be actively monitoring what the FDA and other agencies are doing, what new guidances are coming out, what changes are on the horizon.
So they can be prepared.
Exactly. And it's not just about reacting to new regulations. It's about being proactive and anticipating what's coming.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is. But it's all in service of a really important goal, making sure the medicines we rely on are safe and effective.
And as technology keeps advancing, I think it's only going to get more complex.
Oh, yeah. The pace of innovation is incredible.
Yeah.
But that's also what makes it so exciting.
It's a challenge, but it's a challenge worth tackling.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who wants to dive deeper into any of this, I'd encourage you to check out the specific regulations and guidances we've mentioned.
Like 21 CFR parts 11, 111, 211.
Yep, those are good starting points.
Yeah.
And ICH-Q9, the EU GMP Annex 1, those are great resources too. There's a wealth of information out there.
And it's constantly evolving, so it's important to stay up to date.
Absolutely. You got to stay curious and keep learning. That's the key to success in this field.
Well said. All right, that's another deep dive wrapped up. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of, well, who knows what.
That's the fun of it.
The world of knowledge awaits.
Exactly.
See ya.